All right. So, despite widely popular appeal of the new co-host, there were some incidents. She tweeted some unpopular opinions about NAFTA, and she's been canceled. So
Oh,
we had to bring back the other guy. You know him, you tolerate him, William. Welcome back. It's good to see you. I haven't talked to you in ages.
I know it seems like it's been a long time. Well, 3 weeks anyway, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
three.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Something like that. Um, it feels longer. I don't know what that's about. It's
It
been it's
does.
been a week time.
It does feel longer.
Uh,
To me too.
and hello everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world that has moved beyond lucky number 13 of years and is now in uh year 14, which is not as lucky. And you know why?
Why?
Because buildings skip 13, so 14 is actually the 13th floor. So this is really our 13. Hey, I'm Tony.
And I'm William. And this is episode 685.
Yes. Um and we should probably address the elephant in the room. You have been gone for a few weeks for both good and bad things. What
Oh.
would you like to say about these things?
Well, and some people already know, some of our listeners, but back on April 12th, my father passed away suddenly, heart attack. He had been in the hospital. Um, I guess he went in the day before with some cardiopulmonary complaints, but nothing like, I mean, nobody thought that what happened was going to happen. Everybody was completely shocked. The hospital, everybody. They were sending him home that day, actually.
Hmm.
I was in contact with my family about it, and we're talking about whether or not I was going to like come over the weekend if he was going to be in the hospital. And no, he's not going to be in. They're letting him go. Okay. And then he just suffered a cardiac arrest and they couldn't revive him. And they worked on him for a really long time. Like my sister called me right when it happened. Uh, and then I was off the phone for like 20 minutes, just waiting to hear what happened. Because here's the thing: when Mom passed in 2006, she coded many times and was revived. I mean, that was part of our experience with Mom before she passed away. So there was a chance, even maybe an expectation that they'd bring him back. But I mean, who knows what shape he'd be in, and he was out for so long. But I finally called back and was on the line when the doctors said that he didn't make it. So that was the 12th. That was a Friday. And I went down to help with arrangements on Saturday. Um, and then Trish was kind enough to help with the podcast the next week. And that I'm very grateful for that because I was really not in any place to, be doing anything like that.
She owes me a couple.
Okay. Wednesday was the visitation, which I never know when I say that if is that something I have to explain what a visitation is? Because
Think so. I find it weird, but I've heard it. I understand what it is.
I mean, most of the time I bring it up to people. They're not most of the time, many times, like, oh, is it like a wake? Well, I guess it is a
Well, I
little.
mean, then you explain it then, because yeah, maybe people don't know then.
Well, many times, I don't know, in where I grew up, I don't know what it's like in other places in Iowa or anything else, but there would be there's a funeral. So like the funeral was on Thursday, but usually what's called a visitation will be the day before. And many times it's just right there in the funeral home, right where the funeral is going to be. And the body's been embalmed and prepared and is there. And people come and visit with the family in the funeral home. It is a little like a wake, I guess, except it's not really I mean, there's not like food and drinks or it's not like really a party type of atmosphere. Although people do tell stories and laugh. I mean, it's sort of a celebratory environment, kind of. But when I was growing up, that's just what when someone passed, that's just what you heard. Well, funeral is here and visitation is this. For a long time, I thought that's just what everybody did. But when I came here to the University of Iowa, I ran into a few people who didn't know what it was, and I realized, oh, that's might be a, I don't know, small town Iowa thing. I don't know. And a few people thought it was like a wake, and I was familiar with what a wake was, and I guess I didn't feel like it was much like that, but I guess it kind of is. But aren't wakes like sometimes more than one day? I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know what a wake is.
I'm not super familiar with wakes. I do not think visitations are particularly regional. Well, and I know they're not specific to Iowa because I've gone to a lot of other funerals that had visitations beforehand.
Oh, okay.
I guess because what you describe is what, in my limited experience with funerals, and for me, that happens afterward.
Yeah, like at a
So
reception or
you
something.
have the funeral, and then you usually go somewhere and you eat food and you tell stories, and it's basically a family reunion at that point.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, so the normal, and this is what mom's funeral was like this. So there was a visitation the night before, and then there was and this all at the same place in mom's case. Dad's case, the funeral was actually at a different place than the visitation was, but visitation and then the funeral the next day in the same place. Then you go out to the cemetery.
Yeah.
And there's a service there, and then you go to some place that's serving like a luncheon or something, and everybody sort of has a little social time after that. But yes, the visitation is, I think it was the way I've seen it used in where I grew up was most people wouldn't go to all of those things. They'd pick one. They'd go to the funeral or the visitation, or maybe they'll come to the luncheon afterwards or whatever. They'll pick something to come and show their respects or whatever, but they won't go to all of it. So I think it was sort of a way for farmers who couldn't, come during the day or, the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
Had
And I
ways
could
to.
see it also as a potentially alternative thing for people who don't particularly care about the ceremony aspects of it.
Right. Yeah. Because the funeral is going to and the gravesite service are both going to have like a little sermon and all
Yeah.
that. No.
I had never been to a gravesite service until my uncle-in-law or whatever, the Catholic funeral I went to. That one, we didn't go to the visitation, but we went to the funeral and the gravesite service and then to the lunch afterward. I don't know that I've ever been to a visitation. Trish may have taken me because to me, I don't notice a lot of difference. But I haven't been to a lot of those things. I would like to make your father's death all about me for a second.
Okay.
Well, so you texted me real quick after that.
Yeah, like right away.
Yeah. Which at first in my head was, well, we're friends and all this, but I'm also like, technically this podcast is one of your limited responsibilities. So like you were going to text work and all that, and you're texting me so that I know I have to do something. But I realized later that in all likelihood, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm probably one of your closest friends.
Yeah, that's why I told you. I didn't really, I'd forgotten about the podcasting completely at that moment. I was just thinking, this is my friend and he's going to want to know this.
This is the thing. I think of myself as having very few friends. And also most of the good friends I have, you especially, seldom need anything from me. So these things don't kind of register. But then I remembered a different friend who didn't ask anything of me, but I ended up going to the funeral and it was a very big deal for them. And they were very glad I was there. And I suddenly was like, oh shit, I probably gotta back up William. I might have to go to visitation. I might have to go to the funeral to support him or whatever. And for the record, definitely was all set.
Oh.
Figured out where my pants were and everything.
Wow.
And I certainly, if you go through a similar experience again with a sibling, or what, I don't want you to hesitate to ask. I was very grateful though, because I don't like
No,
funerals.
no, no. Yeah, I'm. It moves me that you even considered it.
I
Honestly.
was super ready, but I also was like, because of who you are and things like that, I wasn't gonna just be like, I'm coming. Like, when is it? Tell me, I'll be there. Um, but I was waiting for you, and I didn't hear anything until the day, if you'll pardon the segue here, that you texted me and said, I just took my the therapist exam
Yeah.
and I passed. Now I'm going to my dad's visitation.
Visitation, right?
And I was just like, fucking big day.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah.
super impressed that you had the wherewithal to do both of those things in the same day.
Well, so yeah, that happened too. So the test had,
That was the good news I was alluding to earlier,
yeah,
folks,
right.
in
The
case you're
test
like,
was
what the hell is wrong with Tony? There was a good thing there.
the test was scheduled, way in advance. And it turns out, I mean, at first I thought this is going to be really hard to reschedule and stuff, and whatever. I came to find out that it wasn't actually wouldn't have been that difficult to reschedule it, but um, honestly, I just felt like, I was going to be in town still. The visitation wasn't till later. I just thought I'll just do it. I mean, if I don't pass it, well, then I'll have like taken it and I'll kind of know what to expect, and maybe I'll be in better position to pass it next time. But if I do pass it, it'll be done. Like before I have to go to the visitation or the funeral, anything else, and I won't be thinking about that. Which maybe some people would think that would be odd that I would be thinking about that after the death of my father, but of course I was,
I
because
mean, it's a stressor. It's a thing
yeah,
there. This is your career we're talking about. Like, yeah, it takes a back seat to what's happening at the immediately, but it doesn't go away.
right. Well, and honestly, um, dad was pretty supportive of what I'm doing and all this stuff. Honestly, I think he would have been unhappy if I could take it and didn't. I mean, just take it, right? So I did, and I passed, which I was kind of amazed by. The ladies at the testing site kind of messed with me because so I'm taking this test and it feels like I'm guessing on everything. I mean, they're educated guesses. Pretty sure I'm right, but still, there's not very many where I'm like, that's the answer, that's the answer, that's the answer. There's a few like that, but most of them are like, I think that answer is this. And part of that's because the questions were the kind where it's like, what's the best answer? Like, all of them could be a good answer, but one of them is
Yeah.
supposedly the best. I think, in fact, that when I look at my test results, even though there's only 200 questions, there's um, like 320 points. So I think maybe if you actually pick the best answer, that's a certain number of points, and there's like a second best answer that you still get points
Oh,
for,
and
kind of
it's a
thing.
partial credit kind of deal.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd
right.
be interesting.
So anyway, I didn't really feel that confident about it. And of course,
I recall.
my dad just died, so I wasn't feeling great. And of course, the ladies that doing the thing didn't know that part. They just knew I didn't look very happy.
So they
So
were like, we're gonna fuck with that guy.
yeah, kind of. So I go back. They. So it's interesting. The testing facility, a Pearson testing facility, used to have a lot of workstations in it, and people are there taking all kinds of tests. I mean, I was taking my test. That's
Ah,
the
yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
next to me is taking some kind of electrician certification thing, and another person over here is taking something completely different. But there's a procedure, right? You have to like pull out your pockets so they know you don't have any in your pockets. I had to pull out my sleeve so they knew I didn't have anything written on my forearm.
Unclench your butt cheeks and no nothing hiding in there.
So when you're finished, you kind of have to raise your hand, and they're in this like panopticon type room with the windows all over. They see you and they come out and get you, right? So they brought me back, and these two ladies are in there, and the woman said, "Well, how do you think you did?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, if you pass, you have to do cartwheels down the hallway there." I said, "Well, I don't think you're going to see me doing any cartwheels today." But she already knew I passed because she already printed out the thing. She was just messing with me. So then she said, "Well, here's your results. What do you see there?" And actually, the word pass is a tiny little word on the page. So I was like, I didn't see anything at first. Like,
Very little.
I don't know. What does it say? And then she pointed, pass. You passed. You're smarter than you thought you were, she said. I could hear the implied dummy in there. You passed, dummy. But they both laughed. They thought it was really funny. I wonder if they knew that my father had just died, if they would have been messing with me, or if they would have felt bad.
See, that's why I'm like, you leverage that. You just look them in the eye. My dude just died. And they feel horrible. It's great. I don't think this is a thing, but I don't really know what the hell happened. So if people are watching this on YouTube and just saw the logo for Riot Games appear across the screen for a few seconds, you didn't imagine that, and I don't know what that was about. So
I didn't see anything.
I don't think anybody did. I think the launcher may have just launched because it was like updating something. I recently, because I have Game Pass, I started putting games on my PC.
Hmm.
And unlike with the Xbox, if it's one that's done by EA or Riot Games or a couple others, you have to install their whole launcher for it and everything. So I have several different game companies' launchers on my computer now. So anyway, I just thought maybe I hallucinated it. So, but if you saw it, we're in this together.
But then after that, as you know, like when you go to do arrange for things, and then there's all the things you have to go to. It makes for a pretty busy week.
Yeah.
For the people who just lost somebody, right? It's like, there's not a lot of time for processing and all that.
Yeah.
So when Trish offered again to cover, I was very grateful for that too. So thank you to her and to you for doing that.
I told her she was off the hook for this week, and she sounded disappointed. And I'm like, you can totally join. And she's like, no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I
think she had fun with it.
I did need to see like clients last week because I need to, there's a certain number I have to see before I graduate. So I had to do that part. And that was fine though, because
good practice for compartmentalizing your own emotions.
In a way, because you're right. When you're, one of the things you're trained to do, and one of the things you need to do when you're, doing therapy is you're focused on, your stuff is over here. You're focused on this person. And for whatever reason, that's the thing that I've like been able to do pretty much all my life in like crisis situations or such. I can really focus on what's right in front of me. And then if there's anything troubling about it, when it's over and it's taken care of, then later I can, freak out about it if that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, and besides that, I do feel like my work, the stuff I do is kind of honors mom and dad in a lot of ways. And so that had that added piece of it. So seeing clients actually was somewhat therapeutic for me that second week, but I didn't see very many. I mean, I did see enough to keep up with my, quota or whatever. And then I had schoolwork to do still to turn in, I didn't get any breaks on any of that stuff. So, so yeah, this week is supposedly going to be a little more normal week, but we'll see. But I mean,
except I'm gonna make you record extra podcasts.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going on vacation, so we're recording one today on Monday, and we'll post it on Thursday. The very next day, we're going to record another one, and then the Monday after that, we're going to record another one because I'm going to go on vacation, and we have no emails. So when this one drops, if you listen to it on Thursday or even before Monday, please email us something because we got a lot of material to cover. Like we got a lot of space to cover up. And I know William, he hasn't done. We've talked about everything that's happened to him now.
Well, except we did watch the Fallout TV show. I don't know.
Okay, this is the thing. By the way, I'm not explaining how this podcast works. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a weird episode to join us on. Maybe go listen to a different one. Anyway, I am assuming, of course, that you have listened to all the missing episodes while you were gone and are caught up on all of my various consuming of media. So we don't have to go back to Late Night with the Devil and theater camp and things like that. I did want to revisit Fallout because I thought you might have watched it, and because we are still not finished with it, but we are much further along now than
Mm,
we were.
mm,
So you're done with it, I'm assuming, because you
mhm.
some bingy people.
Yep.
All right. We have 2 episodes left. We just watched the episode where you don't go down to level 12, if that tells you exactly where that is.
Mhm.
So please don't spoil anything after that. What did you think? How did you feel?
Well, I think Abby liked it more than I did because it was so very authentic, right? I mean, it was really,
It was very, very authentic.
yeah. I mean, they just hit everything pretty much spot on with the design and the
Kind of a
casting and the acting.
spooky details, actually. I saw a clip from an interview with Todd Howard, who's the guy who's the head of the video game company that it's based off of. And he went to visit the set, and they had him sit in, like, the overseer's chair, and there was, like, a folder, and he's like, "What's this?" It's like, "Oh, if you need to be seen going through papers or whatever." And he opened it up, and they actually had a report on, like, energy, routing and things like that. Like, they had bothered to do details inside the folder. He's like, "Wow, you guys really worked on
Yeah.
it."
I mean,
Yeah, it's very involved.
it was, yeah. I mean, and you, if you like freeze a frame, you can almost look at all the details and go, oh, I mean, you just could swear that whoever did this played the game and like really played it, really liked
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
right? Put in hours and hours playing it. And so now they want to make the exact same experience that everybody else had playing. I mean, it really did
And
feel
it's
that way.
also full of little Easter eggs that aren't details, just like names and references that didn't have to be there, but that are clearly references to other things.
It does feel like, so my brother and sister-in-law were asking me about it because they knew that we played the game. So they were saying, well, what about this? And what about this? What about that? And at first I didn't quite understand what they were asking me, but I eventually realized they were thinking that the plot of the whole thing was based on a game.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I had to explain, well, no, this is an original story in that universe, but the plot is very game like going to find your
Well,
dad.
and I think it's canon. Like,
Oh yeah, I think so too.
I think it takes place in the exact same universe, and like future video games will
Mm,
have to take into account
mm.
things that have happened.
Right. And I
I
think
believe.
so. Abby started after we watched the show. There coincidentally, probably not coincidentally, it's probably part of a big marketing thing. Like some deals came up on getting Fallout 76. So
Oh
she's
yeah, yeah,
playing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
She's playing it now. It has been playing it. And there's cross marketing or cross whatever
Is there?
with the show a little bit because uh I didn't know this, but Fallout 76 is like only supposed to be like 25 years after the bombs dropped or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
which is part of why there's not, or at least initially, there weren't any human NPCs and stuff like that.
correct. But
They fixed
now,
that because everybody hated that, but
yeah, but now but the show is like 200 years in the future, whatever, like most of the games are kind of.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Although I'm not sure where they fall in the
so
game
to speak.
chronology. Do you know?
No, I mean, it'd be easy to look up, but
Yeah,
it's roughly 200 and somewhere in the early 200s is where I
yeah,
think most of the games happen. Sorry, early 200s after the nuclear fallout, everything.
right.
Well, and regionally speaking, they are in the area that Fallout 1 and 2 are,
Right.
which virtually none of us have played.
Yeah,
The
right.
games didn't become a big deal until 3. Um, so people who know more about those would probably.
Right. Like there were some of the things that they talked about where it's like, I wonder if that's in the first or second game, some of the things about that happened in California is basically what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because that's where it all started. But then they they expanded clear across the country pretty quickly. I mean, because the let's see, was 3 was the old Capitol Wasteland and stuff, right?
3 was the DC area.
Yeah.
Um 4 was Massachusetts.
Boston and that.
New Vegas was the Southwest, and they're actually close to that. In fact, I know they are some because there are advertisements for products that I know to specifically be regional products that only came up in New Vegas.
Mm, mm,
And then 76 is set in West Virginia.
mhm, mhm.
So
Weird choice,
I
really.
made a joke earlier. I'm actually assuming the opposite of what I said. You haven't listened to the podcast that Trish and I recorded.
No, I haven't. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine. I just wanted to know what to tell you because the listeners have heard this part. But when we talked about Fallout before, we had watched the first 2 episodes.
Mm,
We were both pretty excited. I was really enjoying it.
mm.
And I found it very interesting. It made me start wondering, why do I like this show and why do I like the Fallout games when I hate post-apocalyptic stuff? And I think obviously there's a video game to TV show movie difference. It's just a different experience, but I think some of it is that it's not super bleak in the same way. Like, yes, there's bad things and all that, but it managed to have sort of a lighthearted tone in a certain way,
Mm,
and it was never like everybody's awful. Like sometimes there's good people and things like that.
right.
And the show, again, having watched those first 2 episodes, was very much in that vibe, and I was liking that.
Mm.
I don't like the show so much now.
Because it took a really dark turn, or
It just became a post-apocalyptic TV show. It
yeah.
just very much, and some of that is everybody's bad. Like, there are no good people. Just straight up. If there are, you see them for a second and then they're dead. Also, everybody who's even a little bit not super awful and evil is dumb as shit. And that is a problem for me because when I play the video games, I am making the decisions.
Yeah.
And I am not dumb as shit, contrary to popular belief. And so that I'm gonna finish watching it. I also, and don't spoil it for me, I have a very strong suspicion at this point we are gonna not resolve a bunch of shit
Mm.
Because we want to do more seasons of this. Also, because I don't think we have time. There's no way we're going to resolve all of this shit in 2 episodes. We got a lot of different. It's not even. There's a character I would call the main character, but there's really a group of like 4 characters that I would consider the main characters, and they all have overlapping but distinct storylines.
Right.
So there's unresolved issues in every direction. But I don't know if I will keep watching it if and when it comes. I think it will get a second season because I think it's been very popular. I will at least finish it out, but yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah, I would.
Like Walking Dead, like
Right.
Sweet Tooth, like all the post-apocalypse shows. It's mostly just a bummer.
Right. That's the point I made to Abby, was that the game seems more darkly comedic, not just dark. And at
Yeah.
first, in the first episodes, you're right, you get that sort of lighthearted stuff going on, but after a little while it just starts to be just bleak. But production values are good, the act is really good. I don't think the
I
writing
think
held
it's
up
a
myself, but
I think it's a pretty darn good show.
you know
And I would recommend it to most people who think a sci-fi post-apocalyptic with some comedic overtones is their kind of deal.
you know
Whether you are familiar with the video games or not. If you are familiar with the video games, absolutely do it because it's the video games. It's crazy. But even if you're not, you do not need to know about the video games to watch this.
yeah,
Trish
I
did
don't.
not, and she's totally there with it.
Oh, really? Okay. I wondered about that because, like I was saying, my brother and my sister-in-law were watching it, and they're both really into it, but they never played the games. So
Well, and
I
we've had a lot of things where Trish doesn't engage with the source material and then we watch an adaptation, and very frequently Harry Potter, most famously, after we watch it we have to sit down and she has to ask questions.
right.
And she said in an earlier podcast, she doesn't have any questions of confusion in this one. Her only questions are like conceptual, like tell me more about this organization, or like, or do they do like just thought-provoking things that she experienced, but none of it was she confused about at all.
Right. Right.
Um, so I no, I think it holds up on its own just fine. It's still a post-apocalyptic show. So also, and I don't want to spoil anything, but of those main characters, some of them are meant to be looked at as good, some of them are meant to be looked at as bad. Um, I am stuck in that one of the characters that I'm pretty sure we're supposed to root for and is I'm pretty sure is supposed to be considered a good character, I fucking hate. I
Mhm.
think they are a terrible person, and literally everything they have said and done is awful, and they do not deserve to live or prosper. And I think we're supposed to be rooting for them, and I'm having a really hard time with it because they
Mm,
suck a
mm.
lot. But on a positive spin of things, fucking Walton Goggins, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. But what
Yeah.
is funny to me, so I think I've talked about this before. Walton Goggins has a recurring role on the Righteous Gemstones as Uncle Baby Billy. Uncle Baby Billy is a character who was famous as a child, and they called him Baby Billy. And he got older and he wasn't famous anymore and fell into poverty and things. And most of the show is him sort of trying to get in with the family that is a wealthy televangelist family. Like he has scams and schemes and he wants to be involved. And he's their uncle. And he insists they call him Uncle Baby Billy. Not Uncle Billy, Uncle Baby Billy. But what cracked me up is as soon as not in his earlier Walton Goggins plays two-ish characters. It's
Yeah.
complicated, and I don't want to spoil things, but in his later character, chronologically speaking, his voice, which is not his voice, like he does a lot of sort of similar accents in a lot of his characters, but they are affectations, and he sounds different when he sounds exactly like Uncle Baby Billy,
He
and it's
does.
hilarious and bizarre because Uncle Baby Billy has silver fox hair, fake tan skin, bright white veneers, the whole thing, big old glasses. It's a very different. It's a televangelist look. So yeah, it's a very different vibe. But I'm loving him. I'm always loving him. He's
Yeah,
amazing.
he's great.
There's a lot. I want to fault a single performance. People are acting really well in this. And there's a lot of people that are cool. Zach Cherry's in this. Matt Berry is in this. Leslie Uggams, who looks like Nichelle Nichols now. That was the thing we talked about the first. We were very confused because there was somebody in the first episode that looked like Nichelle Nichols, and we're like, "Isn't she dead?" And then we looked her up, and she was dead, and it's Leslie Uggams. And when I was telling my sister about it, she's looking up, and she's like, "Leslie Uggams is in this?" Yeah, she must be really old. I'm like, "Yeah, she's so old. We thought she was Nichelle Nichols, who's dead now." But she's in it, and she's doing a great job. Everybody's doing a great job.
Michael Emerson's
Um,
in it.
who?
Michael Emerson?
Oh, yeah, it's her. Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Michael Emerson is in it, and I do like him. Um,
He's from Cedar Rapids. Did you remember me telling you that?
Nobody came up when Trish was looking into him,
Yeah.
or no, or maybe my sister. Somebody was looking into him when we talked about him being in it.
Yeah.
Um, and the who I would call the primary lead, the one who plays Lucy, she's my sister knows her. She's been in
Oh,
other things that
okay.
people know. I didn't know her.
I didn't know either.
Um, yeah, it's got some good people's in it. Chris Parnell is in it, and he does a wonderful job. Chris Parnell plays a particular kind of character, and I would have loved to not have a Chris Parnell kind of character in this show.
Hmm.
So that's me saying I wish he wasn't here, but not because he's doing a bad job. Like he was accurately cast for that character. I wish that character was not in this show.
Yeah.
Um. All right. All right. Well then, we might have to dance back a little bit. We probably don't have to talk about theater camp. Did you see Late Night with the Devil? I don't know if you still have Shutter.
Mm-mm. I think we do, but no, I Nope, I don't think we've
Late
seen
Night
that.
with the Devil recently came out. We had known it was coming. We were very excited for it.
Hmm.
It is a fictional. They created a fictional 1970s late night talk show host, specifically a rival to Johnny Carson.
Hmm.
And the show is it holds the line between a fake documentary and found footage. It's sort of in between there, but it's that kind of thing. That is of a Halloween 1977 episode of the show in which the devil shows up. I
The
mean,
devil shows up.
not the devil, it's a demon, but shit gets all spookums.
Oh, okay.
Found footage. It's a horror movie.
Spookums.
It's all spookums. I don't want to spoil things, but yeah, it gets all spooky daisy. Trish was so with it. I liked it a fair bit. Well, on paper, this is exactly my kind of show. 100%. This is everything about this is my kind of thing. I was a little heartbroken. They didn't quite do as good as I hoped, but I still think it's quite good. A very large part of it is basically just watching a 1970s late night talk show, which I'm super into. But like the horror elements, while they are there relatively from the beginning, are sprinkled in very lightly until we get further along. So for some people that could be boring. I also feel like they didn't quite stick the landing. It it gets a little vague and tenuous what happens at the end, sort of. But tremendous performances, some of which really stood out to us. And it's a really fun in that all the characters in it are fictional, but a lot of the guests are very clearly specific analogs to like celebrities I knew from the 70s who showed up on shows like this.
Oh yeah.
We've got a Amazing Kruskin analog. We've got a what is it? Amazing Randy, the professional skeptic. Back in the day, we've got one of him in
James
here and
Randi.
stuff like
Yep.
that. James Randi.
James
Yeah,
Randi,
yeah. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, you should. I think you might enjoy it. You should check it out. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot else in those missing episodes that you need to know about. So, have you watched anything other than Fallout?
No, nothing really to speak of. But because you know Abby's actually been playing the game, so I've been kind of watching her do that a lot of evenings. It seems pretty fun. It's not. There's a lot of differences because it's online
Well, it's
and
an
all that.
MMO. Yeah.
And I can't, I don't feel like those changes that they did have to do. Like you understand why, but I don't feel like it improves the game.
I've been thinking of checking out it. It quite famously when it came out sucked balls.
Oh yeah, right. That's been years ago now.
Yeah, and it is one of the which doesn't always. It could still suck balls, but
true.
I have been hearing that it is a fair bit better, and I've been thinking about checking it out. I don't know if I will, especially because now I have Game Pass. I have literally every Fallout game available to me.
Oh.
And so I'm thinking about just replaying Fallout 3 or New Vegas or something like that instead.
Yeah. I mean, it looks and feels like the game, and she feels like she's playing a Fallout game, but there's just little differences, which again, it's all about it being online that are they're like, yeah, I get why they had to do that, but it makes it a little less good. I mean, it's like I really don't know what I mean, except for like the only reason I can see for them doing this in the first place, putting it online, is to make money, right? To sell skins.
Yeah, it's trend chasing kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, but it's also that you make more money, right? You sell the game,
yes.
Then you sell in-game stuff.
Sorry, I meant trends on behalf of the game companies, which are new ways to squeeze more money out.
Right.
Not the trends they chase aren't how to make good games.
Right.
It's how to make money.
Yeah. It's definitely game-wise
and
it's a little bit not as good, but money making
Live
wise, I'm sure
service
it's good.
games and the MMO is very similar to live service games are, well, they're very hot right now with the companies. They are very much not hot with consumers.
Right. I mean, you hear people complain about that thing all the time. But I mean, when we played Battlefront, like Abby really, really liked it. I mean, it was annoying, all of the things they kept trying to get you to buy. And
Yeah.
what we've been playing together, couch co-op,
Diablo 4.
Diablo 4, same thing. Like all the coolest stuff you have to pay like extra money for, which of course we don't
Yeah.
do, but there's still plenty there to like as far as we're concerned in those games. And I guess Abby feels the same way about this one. It's like, yeah, this feels like Fallout and it's a new Fallout experience and I like it. So
I also wonder, when I say everybody hates or whatever, and everybody hates the live service games and all that, everybody who talks about it does. Like, they're not disappearing, so they're probably still making money.
Oh yeah. I mean, like when we
So
played
there's
Diablo,
probably a silent majority that's still playing this shit.
we see characters all the time who have things that we know they had to pay money for it. Like they didn't
Yeah.
earn that or find that anywhere. That or that mount or that costume. They went and bought
And
that with real
that
money.
weird mobile game they made that is so reviled is making them so much money.
Yeah. So I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. So for us, we'd be just as happy with it. All of this being on, local, on our machine. It doesn't have to be online. That sometimes
Oh,
the
yeah.
online thing is a little annoying. However, the other side of that coin is making video games of this caliber is super expensive, like super, super,
Yeah.
super, super expensive. So if they don't make games like this, and if they don't make money like this, they're not going to make games like this at all. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? It's like, if this is how the games get made, then if it's between that or not having a game, I prefer to have the game really. Although, first world problems, right? So I don't know.
Well, and there's always games.
Yeah, right.
Trish and I have been talking. I've been playing so many games so constantly and not sticking with them
Oh,
that Trish was like, I can't even get, like, she'll be in the room when I play games and she can't even like interface with them
mm.
because she doesn't like, she's like, were you playing, is this yesterday's game? No, this is a different game and so forth. And so I finally settled on, there's a game that I play only when she's in the room, and it's the only one I play when she's in the room.
Mm.
And so she's following along, and it's called Harold Halibut, and it is a stop motion video game. Um, it is a sci-fi adventure kind of thing. You should listen to the podcast entry about it. I don't think your wife would be into it at all. I think you would love it. I
I
think you
would
would be
love it.
all over it. It's a very Douglas Adams sort of
Oh,
British sci-fi comedic dystopia sort of thing. And again, it's
okay.
a stop motion video game.
How does that work?
Um, you'll see. I mean, I don't know how it was rendered necessarily, but it looks like that.
Hmm.
And it looks vaguely claymation-esque in its way.
Hmm.
My favorite part is watching him go up and down stairs because his feet don't quite hit the thing right. It's kind of weird, but no, I think you would love it. I had to stop one night. I was like, I can't play this anymore tonight because we had watched uh one of those Netflix short films that Wes Anderson made about the Roald Dahl short stories. We
Hmm.
watched the Rat Catchers. Yeah, there's a series of them out there. Wes Anderson did short films of Roald Dahl short stories with a bunch
Oh,
of famous celebrities in them. And
okay.
we finally watched one of those called The Rat Catcher, and it was very good. But then I don't know, something else came up, but I was finally just, oh, maybe we watched Fallout too, and I was finally like, I can't do any more bleak whimsy tonight. I have to do something else.
Bleak
So
whimsy.
we stopped playing
I
that
like
night.
that.
But all right. Well, a lot of things to talk about, but more than we have time for, and also uh we're gonna have to fill a couple other things. So let me just talk about some movies I recently watched.
Okay.
We watched several movies recently, and it was very weird.
It was weird.
Yes. Well, some of it was weird. Some of it was not weird.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, we watched The Sting, which
Oh,
we had never watched.
oh. You mean,
The 1973 Paul Newman, Robert Redford,
yeah.
very famous movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
I thought so.
I haven't seen it in ages though, so maybe I don't remember right.
Trish was less into it
Hmm.
than I was. Um, it's not. I mean, it is. It is held up as an amazing film. I don't know that I think it's an amazing film. I thought it was a good film. I very much enjoyed it. It didn't grab me the way The Hustler did and other things like that, though. Like it didn't strike me as like super one for the ages. Now, to be fair, I think some of it is that thing where the movie has certain tropes, and this was the first major movie that did those tropes.
Mm.
So it's not impressive now to me, but it would have been. Not the least of which is I think this was the first major movie to do a con story. From what I could look up later,
Mm.
this was the first real movie about confidence men,
Mm.
which is its own fucking genre now. So
Right,
that's just
right.
and performances were amazing. Such a cast, so many people I knew by name, by face. I was really blown away by the sets and the
Mm.
look of it.
Mm.
It was just mind-boggling. Um, and Trish enjoyed it, but it didn't hit us the same way like for example, The Hustler from 12 years earlier or whatever. Um, but it was very good. We liked it a lot. Um, I was gonna say it's on Netflix. It was. It left like 2 days after we watched it. That's part of why we watched it. We're like, "Oh, this thing's here. Oh, this thing's leaving." So we watched that. Then we had one of those. Have you ever seen? No. All right, let's watch it. Where Trish had me watch Edward Scissorhands.
You'd never seen that?
I had never seen Mr. Skeezer's hands with
Wow.
Skeezers for hands. Um, yeah, you're muted, just so you know.
Sorry, I saw that. I
He's
saw it in
on
the
mute.
theater, Edward Scissorhands.
I would have been in 8th grade, probably.
Yeah, I was in college. So
Um, okay, here's what I'm gonna say. Holds up.
Mm.
Like I would no criticism I might level at the film has anything to do with its aging.
Mm.
Um, it is probably the best Tim Burton movie I have seen. I think it is a good movie. Um, it is also the most Tim Burton movie I've ever like. It is very clearly the archetype from which everything he ever did afterwards sprung. Like all of his bits are here. The love of Americana, the cute, creepy, the very pale looking Johnny Depp. We don't have Helena Bonham Carter yet, but we'll get there. The Danny Elfman score, the incredibly quirky set designs, um, all of the surreal nature of it is
And
all
Vincent
very
Price was
Tim.
in it.
And Vincent Price was in it.
Yeah.
Uh, his final performance, I believe.
I think it was his final film
Yeah.
performance. Yeah.
Um, and really good cast all around. Diane Wiest, younger than I've ever seen her. That was crazy. Um, Anthony Michael Hall in a role that really shows the fact that he's like fucking 6'3". Like
Yeah.
throughout the 80s, he was like he played a lot of sort of like nerd characters and things, and they worked to make him look short. Like he had to stand in trenches in certain movies and stuff. But this one, the role is supposed to be a big guy, and he's a big guy.
Yeah, I think this was one of the first like that. Like at the time, I
Yeah.
remember people had to be sort of told, or they saw it in the credits, is that, oh, was really that was
Yeah,
him?
they were like, "What?"
Yeah, couldn't believe
And I
it.
remember when I was told about it, I was like, no, he's a little guy.
Little scrawny guy.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, I liked it. It was funny. We were talking about this, and I was like, I think some of it is my theory is that you have an era in your life when you're into Tim Burton, and the movies that you see then you like, and you'll continue to like even once you're out of your Tim Burton phase. Um,
Tim Burton face.
and I wasn't in my Tim Burton phase at the time, but that begs the question: when was my Tim Burton phase? And we looked stuff up and all the movies he's done, and probably like half of his movies I haven't seen.
Hmm.
And of the ones I have seen, I hate most of them.
Mm.
I may not be a Tim Burton fan. I mean, I'm definitely not a current Tim Burton fan, but I may have never been a Tim Burton fan, which was a weird realization because I would have told you there was a time period when I was. And I definitely have movies of his I like. Big Fish, I liked. Um, Nightmare Before Christmas, I know it's not his, but I liked it. I kind of like Corpse Bride. I went and saw Corpse Bride in the theater, and that was his. But yeah, in general, I think I maybe don't like Tim Burton. So that's weird.
Well, for those of us that went to see Edward Scissorhands in the theater, I mean, he had Beetlejuice and he had Batman. I mean, those were.
See, and that's the thing. I was like, oh, Batman. But when Batman came out, I didn't particularly like it. Now I like it, but I didn't at the time. So I
Uh,
don't know where that. And I fucking hated and continue to hate Batman Returns.
well, and the way I knew about Tim Burton was because of Pee-wee's Big Adventure in
Yeah,
1985.
yeah, which I was not. No, I did not. I
I
didn't
mean, I was in
enjoy
high
that.
school when that came out, and I only saw it because some friend of mine had cable, and so they had me over to watch it. And my brother Scott loved it. No, I mean, I was okay with it. I thought it was fine, but he was through the moon about it. And I liked the music, and I liked the general aesthetic. And then Beetlejuice, I think I saw in the theater, and I liked it. And I was not a huge fan of Tim Burton's Batman either, but it was like it was Batman,
Yeah,
it
yeah, the
was it
Batman.
was yeah,
Well,
it
and
was
I went
cool.
and saw it in the theater, and at the time, I don't think I hated it or anything, but it
You
didn't
know.
really resonate with me. And years later, I saw it from a sort of different perspective, and I really like it now. Still think the second one sucks. Um, Mars Attacks, uh, Dark Shadows, Alice in Wonderland. There was another one in
No, it's like
there. I hate
Sleepy
all these
Hollow.
movies.
Sleepy Hollow's in there.
Sleepy Hollow, I'm okay with. Uh, Sweeney Todd is decidedly meh for me, but all those other ones, I fucking hate those movies. I really do not like them. Pee Wee's Big Adventure, I do not like. Um, yeah, I just don't think I like him. And then there's a bunch of ones. There's a couple. Oh, Beetlejuice, don't like Beetlejuice. Um, there's a couple of them that maybe I might like if I watched them, Frankenweenie being one of those. But then there's ones that I just haven't seen and don't want to, like Big Eyes and shit like that. I'm like, I don't no, thank you. I think I'm just not into Tim Burton.
Well, so I think the first film. So I liked. I liked Batman Returns all right. And I liked Ed Wood. I thought that was pretty good.
I haven't seen Ed Wood.
And Mars Attacks. The first movie I think
I
I was
do not
really,
like Mars
and I
Attacks.
loved Edward Scissorhands, by the way. I thought, well, this is a good Christmas movie, is what I thought. But um, I think the first movie that really disappointed me was Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow is, as the kids say, very mid. It's not a bad movie, but it's also not a good like it's a very forgettable film.
And then I liked Big Fish. I thought Charlie and Chocolate Factory was fine. Corpse
Oh yeah,
Bride.
no. Also, fucking don't intend to see Charlie and Chocolate Factory.
Corpse Bride was fine. Sweeney Todd was not my kind of thing, but it was fine. Alice in Wonderland was awful. I never did see Dark Shadows. I have no intention to. And that's it. Like, oh, Dumbo. Remember, didn't he do Dumbo?
Oh yeah, fuck right off.
Yeah, never seen
I'm
it.
not.
No
You
intention.
can't pay me to see that
And
for 3 or 4 different reasons.
so yeah, I guess I'm in a similar boat with like there's a lot of them I don't like, but I think I like more of them than you did.
I do find this interesting though, because there are certain prolific directors that you're like, they're always like they've never changed.
Yeah.
Tim Burton is a version of this. Wes Anderson is a version of this. And then I was talking with Trish about it, and she's like, "Yeah, and Martin Scorsese." And I'm like, "See, that's the thing. People talk about Martin Scorsese nowadays like the shit he's putting out now is some of his best shit ever. Irishman, Killers of a Flower Moon.
Mhm.
People are like, this is some of his best stuff. So I feel like he might grow. And there are definitely filmmakers that grow and change. But then there are some that continue to be prolific and even continue to be popular. And I'm like, literally, if you've seen one of their movies, you would be able to spot that they were the director of any other movie they were in. And
Mm.
Tim Burton is definitely one of those, and Wes Anderson is definitely one of those. I
Mhm.
find Wes Anderson clever and inoffensive, so I never don't enjoy watching one of his movies, but I also could never see another one of his movies and I'd be fine.
Mm.
Uh, Whereas Tim Burton, yeah, I don't know. But I always find that really interesting when like you pick a vision and then 40 years later you've been making tons of millions of dollars budget movies and you're still doing the exact same thing. I find that
Yeah.
crazy. But I mean, it works. Um there was something else in there. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. It was exciting though. All right, saw one other movie just the other night. Nobody was like planning on this. Trish was like, "You want to watch a movie?" I was like, "Yeah, what movie?" She's like, "I don't know." So then she looked some stuff up and she's like, "Here, type this into Prime. We're gonna watch it." So we watched The Long Goodbye.
I don't think I've seen that. Who's in it?
Well, let me explain to you some things about it.
Oh,
The
okay.
Long Goodbye is a 1973 film starring Elliot Gould. It is a 193 sorry, and directed by Robert Altman, and it
Mm.
is a 1973 adaptation of a 1954 Raymond Chandler novel, specifically a Philip Marlowe Raymond Chandler novel.
Mm.
But it is set in 1973.
Mm.
It's bizarre. That's sort of the only word I have for it. Like I told Trisha, I said, I think I may never know if I liked or disliked this movie.
Wow.
Like I just can't fathom it. It you don't watch it's a mystery, but it's not a mystery you ever could possibly solve.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
one of those.
Yeah.
Also, the music was done by John Williams,
Oh.
and John Williams co-wrote a song for the movie called The Long Goodbye. Now, these would seem like two related but distinct facts, but they are not, because as far as I could tell, I think this is literally true. All the music in the film, with one except at one point you're in a grocery store and there's Muzak playing, and that might be something else. But otherwise, every single place in the film is just playing an arrangement of The Long Goodbye.
Hmm.
And I don't just mean the non-diegetic stuff. Like there's a dude, he walks into a bar and there's a guy messing on the piano and he's playing a version of The Long Goodbye. There's a cocktail party and drunken people play on the piano and they play a different version of it. There is a funeral procession with a band that is doing a different arrangement of the song The Long Goodbye. And
Hmm.
it's this is in a different country with no one who even speaks English, but for some reason they have this song. And I don't bring this up as a bad thing or a good thing. It is a bizarre thing. But then there are several times. The opening credits has several different versions of that song, or
Hmm.
at least it's like the same version, but like different singers at different times. Um, it's a bizarre film. It also has Henry Gibson in a villainous role and not comedically villainous, which is bizarre. Um, is so is a very grungy movie, but like intentionally, because I looked it up. The movie was largely praised by critics and to this day is lauded as like a classic. It did not do well at the time with audiences or with the box office.
Hmm.
But the critics praised it, and some of them were like, Altman is basically crapping all over noir detective stories. Like, it is a noir detective story, but like he clearly has disdain for every convention involved. Not that he didn't do them, but like he, they aren't appealing
Hmm.
in it. Uh it's bizarre. That's the only word for it. Bizarre film. Yeah, no, I can't say if I liked it or didn't like it. It's weird.
Hmm.
Very weird movie. Um, it has a very naturalistic dialogue in some places, in other places very much not.
Hmm.
There's some scenes with two characters, with Elliot Gould and a different character, that have very crazy sort of dialogue. And Trish was looking at it. And apparently, it's in large part because the other actor was drunk and or high, basically for all of filming.
Oh no. Huh. Interesting.
And they are scenes that I would say by and large are to establish character and not to determine plot, so it kind of works. But yeah, I don't know. Very weird movie. Very weird. Um, yeah, I got other things to talk about involving video games and uh some weird tendencies I have achieved in my viewing habits. But I will save those for other times because we got a bunch of them coming up. I took a lot of strong positions on a lot of films today. So if you want to come at me, bro, do it either in the YouTube comments here or go to the magicaltalkinghat.com. That's where we hold all of our conversations about the shit we say. Check it out there. And also, again, if you're listening to this, especially if you're listening to this before May 6th, please email us with something to talk about. I don't know. I don't care. We're gonna run out of shit. This dude does nothing, and I'm running out of material. So go do that, won't you? And
Would you?
thank you, won't you? And I keep feeling like there's like other things I should be talking about, but I don't know what they are. So I guess we'll have to save it. Um, so anyway, oh yeah, the the trackball I got. By the way, when we went home to visit family, my brother-in-law has basically the exact same trackball, and I suddenly realized I've seen him. He games and shit on his computer, and I've seen him with one for years. I've never not seen him with one, and yet that never occurred to me. I was always like, should I get one? I don't know. And like if I thought about it, but this one, to save on battery, it goes dead. It goes to sleep if you don't do anything for a while. And moving the ball does not wake it up.
Hmm.
You have to hit a button. And so just now I was like, it's dead. Why is it not moving? But I hit a button. All right. So, anyway, yeah, please email us and also go to the blog. Give me what for on all of my hot takes on cold movies. And also, yeah, I'd love to get some more Fallout response from people.
Sure, that'd be interesting.
Because I've only talked to Trish and William and me about it. I mean, who have seen it. I've talked to other people who might see it, but and come back next week. It will probably be the same hosts. Maybe.